Hey gang, I know it's been a minute since I've done a video from the car, but there was something I kind of wanted to talk about, and I did like a 20-minute video on this, and I got through the whole thing, and then when I went to edit it, I realized that my microphone wasn't plugged in, so there was no audio. It was just me gesturing at the camera. So instead of doing that again, I thought maybe I'll just break this into some smaller videos and post it. And normally, I don't get political beyond just my hypotheticals for the Soviet endgame and things like that. I try to stay out of it. Even when I was doing those Ukraine videos, you could tell where I was coming from, I think, but I tried not to be too overly political about it. But what I want to talk about now is critical theory, and the reason I want to talk about it is because it's really, really divisive, as I'm sure everybody watching this probably understands. But what really drives me crazy is how intentional it is. And what I wanted to share wasn't like, the history of critical theory, or exactly what do different critical theories mean, where do they come from, what are the histories and the origins. If you want any of that, James Lindsay has a great channel, and it's called The New Discourses. It's great. Just you can check some of that out. All I wanted to talk about was my personal experience with critical theory and what you would basically just call the current modern progressive agenda. And the reason that I feel like I have kind of a unique voice to offer on this is because I really picked this up when it first started, or at least that's not true exactly, but I saw this way before it reached a head in, say, 2020. In fact, it was all the way in the year 2001 when I started running into this, and even the late 90s. And I thought, oh, well, this is stupid. I'm very glad I'm graduating college and going out into the real world, so I won't ever have to deal with this bullshit again. And yet that's obviously not how it worked out. So that's really what I wanted to do on this video, is just kind of share my, take on progressivism and how it works and how we got here. And the first step in that is to talk about critical theory. Now, I was really introduced to critical theory in freshman honors English in college. Now, to remind everybody, I did join the Navy, and I out of high school, I was in the Navy, and so when I went to college, I was a little older than everybody else. I still tried to fit in and not be one of those arrogant dicks that's like, well, I've been out in the real world, and you're a bunch of children. Those guys always pissed me off. Like the kids that got college degrees before going into the military, but they were still enlisted, and it's like, bro, you did all that, and yet here we are, same rank, doing the same thing. So maybe shut the fuck up about that. Anyway, I was introduced to, like I said, critical theory in freshman English, and it was talking about literary criticism. And so there are different schools of literary criticism that we studied. And I think that for the purposes of what we're doing, I think the easiest way to look at this is to start with the granddaddy of all of these critical theories. Now, I'm not going all the way back to Hegel or anything like that. I just want to start with Marx, okay? So Marx and the Marxian dialectic is essentially looking at society, looking at situations, and then analyzing them through the lens of power dynamics between classes. So you have, you have your upper class, and they're dominating the lower class, and there's always oppressor oppressed. It's that's how you get to the bottom of things. So if you're looking at a Marxist literary criticism, you're essentially just reading a passage and then applying that power differential to explain what the author's intent was. Or I guess author's intent is the wrong way to put it, but to explain what the real meaning of the piece is. Similarly, you have feminism as a literary critique, and that does the same thing, but it goes with gender roles. So when you read the passage, you now look at the characters and you apply meaning, or you derive meaning from how gender roles are played out. So take, for example, a story that doesn't have any women. Well, I mean, clearly that is, patriarchal because the author, hates women, or women are unimportant and therefore they don't need to be addressed. That's the kind of analysis that you could throw at it. Now, obviously, that's really high level, but the most important thing to know is that it's all bullshit, that it's not real. And my favorite example of the reality of this slapping someone in the face was in, I think it was 1997, maybe 96. John Lovitz did a Playboy interview where he had just seen Crimson Tide with his girlfriend, and she was complaining about how it was such a patriarchy movie, how it was all about penises. The missiles are penises and the submarines are penises. And John Lovitz was like, if they made a submarine shaped like a vagina, it would just fill up with water and sink. Oh, my kid's here, so I'll pick this up on the other end. Okay, I think we stopped off with John Lovitz and the vagina submarine. But that was feminist criticism, and I wanted to talk about one more school of criticism, and that was deconstruction. Deconstruction was kind of, oh, and by the way, yes, I have a partner on this video. This is my dog Justice. He is a puppy, and so he's inevitably going to bark at the high school girls. I'm waiting for my daughter she's coming back from a tennis match. I'm not just trolling the high school. Anyway, deconstruction is a school that was kind of like no rules. It was really just make the text mean whatever you want it to mean. And so my friends and I rose to the challenge, and our goal was to make a text mean the opposite of what we believed the author's intent was. Best example I have of this was a billboard that said, "Abortion stops a beating," and then it had the shape of a heart. I can't do that as well as my kids. Now, you would look at that and you'd say, oh, well, that's clearly an anti-abortion billboard. But I say no. I think this is a pro-abortion billboard, and here's why. If it was anti-abortion, it would have actually said, "Abortion stops a beating heart." But by removing the word heart and adding the image of a heart, it really just says, "Abortions stop a beating." Abortion stops a beating. And so this is a pro-abortion stance because children born into impoverished or unready circumstances are often neglected and abused more often than those that are, born into a more stable environment. So okay, what does that mean? Well, to be honest, let's face it, let's be real. It's bullshit. It's all bullshit. None of that is real. That the people that made that billboard, that doesn't mean that they're pro-abortion, or that the billboard even has a pro-abortion message, just because I can do some linguistic gymnastics to get us there. And so it's not real. But it is today. Today in colleges, all you have to do is find the pretense or the pretext of a grievance, and you win. You get points for that, just like I would be, oh, yay, go Alex, you found the hidden pro-choice, meaning in that. No, I didn't find shit, man. I just made some stuff up. But now they're taking that and it becomes real. It becomes fact. The more that it gets repeated, the more it gets accepted, the more it gets taken at face value. And that's how you end up with claims of systemic racism, America being the most racist country in the world. I mean, my God, have you ever left this country? I mean, yeah, I'm sure, I know we have our problems, 100%. Go to Asia. Go check out some Asian countries and see how racially tolerant they are. And that's just my own experience. So I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap this here. And in a future video, when I'm waiting for my kid, I'm going to tell you guys the story about the first time I met a woke professor. And this was back in 2001. So it goes way back. And so we'll talk about that. Maybe I'll actually, I don't know how long my kid's going to be. Maybe I'll just stop this and then start recording that. And if I get it finished, I'll just upload them both. So, all right. Thanks a lot, guys. Okay, so it was my last semester of college. So it was the spring of 2001. and I was taking a class called Conflict Resolution. I was super excited about this class. I was an international relations major, so this seemed like it was going to be a really good fit. And I was a little concerned because when I got the syllabus, it had some text that I wasn't quite sure about. There was something by Virginia Woolf on there. There was a Noam Chomsky screed called Rogue Nations. And it was, I was a little concerned. And then I found out that the professor, and I won't say her name, but she was a brand new professor, first year, and her degree was in feminist literature. What? Okay, that's an odd choice to teach a conflict resolution class. I would have expected at least political science, but okay, well, let's see where this thing goes. And it was the most bizarre class. Now, remember, this is my last semester of college, and something really weird was happening in this classroom. The stupid people that had been in all my classes up to now were talking. They weren't afraid to be stupid. They weren't afraid to say dumb things because there were no dumb things in this class. Any asinine thing was given absolute credit, whereas in normal classes, when you said something dumb, the professor would be like, "No, that's not really where this is going. That's not, or can you defend that?" No, they didn't have to defend anything. You could just say whatever you wanted in this class. It was very, very weird. And I didn't understand it. I didn't know what the hell was going on. But at the end, I remember I took the final, and I had the professor. I mean, the final was just absolutely absurd. And I had the professor come out into the hall, and I said, "Look, I don't know what that was, but here's the deal I make with you. I got an A in this class, and I don't complain to anybody about anything. I'm just going to go on my way and do my thing." And you know, it was very selfish of me, but again, I was really confused. I had no idea what was going on, and I was just looking to get out so I could get on to grad school. And yeah, it was weird because she was essentially encouraging the basically you could tell there was a Marxist lean to it, but yeah, let's break down the culture. Let's make sure we understand how racist and how the Rogue Nations was really kind of going on about kind of like a modern colonialism. That book was bananas. I mean, Noam Chomsky is a linguist, and his take, man, he says some bananas stuff, and he never has to back it up or you know, give a citation or anything like that. Like in one example, he's saying that, you know, in the East, they didn't fight wars savagely like we did in the West. You know, the Eastern wars were more of a gentlemanly, you know, arrangement. And I'm sitting here thinking, I don't know, man. I think Genghis Khan was kind of savage. You know, catapulting plague victims into villages, you know, over the walls. That seems kind of savage. But hey, whatever, man. Chomsky says what he says. Anyway, the year after I graduated, my buddy Darren ended up in the same situation, and I think he might have gotten her fired. Oh, I'll have to ask him about that, because he had a much lower tolerance for bullshit and a much higher interest in engagement, and he likes to fight, whereas I'm more of a, you know, just keep your head down and get through it. So anyhow, that was my first woke professor, and she was a menace, and I bet she is still a menace to this day. I'm sure she has created a ton of Marxists to carry the flag for her. And I did want to give there's a couple more examples of my experience in college with early wokeism. One of them we're seeing a lot of now, and it blew my mind because, you know, this is just another political science kid, and it was I was wandering around, you know, the Watkins Hall, our main political science hall, and there was a poster up. There was a speaker that was coming to town, or coming to campus, that was essentially a Holocaust denier. And this girl, I was just, you know, she was in my class, so I was just walking around. Just a friend of mine, she says, "Oh no, we can't let that happen. We have to stop that guy from speaking." And I'm like, "Wait, what? Hold on. we're political science students. We believe in the freedom of speech and, you know, engagement. And if you think somebody is saying something that's wrong, then you bring the facts and you tell them what's right, and you defeat them through argument, not through silencing them. But she was adamant that no, there are some things that cannot be said. And now, I mean, you know, in Europe with their hate laws and with their hate speech laws, and increasingly with this whole disinformation bullshit in America, that's totally 100% common now. They try to shut everything down. That, you know, whenever you have an opinion that doesn't go with the mainstream, they're just trying to lock it down. So it just blows my mind that what I saw in 2001 and thought was just, you know, an aberration is, you know, every day now. And then the last example I have of that, I worked in the library. And so there was a job for real dumb people in the library, which was dusting the shelves. So I was taking books back to the shelves, back to the stacks, and I overheard these two absolute meatheads talking about how they didn't like white guys. It was really funny because, you know, they're just talking. They don't have the capacity to understand that there is that there's a person on the other side of the bookcase. So they're just going on about how they can't stand white guys. And then one of them was like, well, what about Kevin? Not his real name. I don't remember what the name was. Like, oh, Kevin, yeah, he's gay, so that's okay. And I was it blew my mind. I was absolutely stoked at how utterly racist, you know, that was. And heterophobic, is that even a thing? I don't know. But it just blew my mind that people would categorize at that level, you know, in 2001. You know, weren't we past all that? But apparently we were not. Anyway, so those are my experiences with wokeness in college. So if you guys have any comments, let me know. If you guys have any questions, ask them. And if you enjoyed any of this, you know, just hit that like button. And if you haven't, please subscribe to the channel. And I'll talk to you guys later. Thanks.